It's great to be presenting again, first webinar for 2024 and loads of news to bring everyone up to date with. Been lots of changes. The good news is the program is formally still open. Just to clarify, I've had quite a few people under the impression it actually closed from last year. I think we can thank some of the press headlines earlier for that. But yeah, formally open. Loads of good news to bring everyone up to speed in. Like I said, the Q&A box at the bottom. I'll take everybody through the key topics this evening. Of course, I'll briefly introduce myself for those that haven't joined before. We'll go through the basics of what the Golden Visa program is, so you can actually work out, if you are at the beginning of your Portugal Golden Visa journey, whether or not it is something that you wish to explore. And we'll go through the basics of how to get involved this evening as well. On top of that, of course, I mentioned I'll bring everyone up to speed with the new investment criteria for 2024. An update on the NHR program as well, which is it's one of the headlines recently. I'm fielding a lot of questions about as to the tax incentives, which have or maybe have not come to an end at the end of last year. And of course, the most recent news around now the time it takes to get a European passport as well. So they're the kind of updates from me this evening. But yeah, Q&A at the end. Feel free to drop those in as we go through. And I'll hopefully offer some good value to everyone as we progress. But yeah, if you haven't logged in before, thanks for doing so today. My name is Jason Swan. I'm a senior partner for Holborn Assets, who by trade are a wealth management practice and now responsible for managing over $2 billion worth of client assets between our 20 offices worldwide. I myself live in Portugal. I've been in Portugal now for the past kind of 2 years or so. I'm down in the south in the Algarve. Right this very second, as you can probably tell from the very dim light behind me, I'm actually sat in Manchester, my hometown in England, due to some renovation on a property here for the next couple of weeks, but very much looking forward to getting back to the Algarve, where I believe it's about 28 degrees over the past week. So counting down the minutes, literally, to get back to Albufeira down in the south. But yeah, my job by day, if you will, I'm a fully qualified and regulated financial planner in Portugal, and spend a lot of my time helping my clients get up to speed with the local Portuguese regulations, and of course helping manage their assets and their income and their taxation in line with the local rules. But around about 6 years back, we launched a Holborn Passport, which is a service designed to help our clients achieve residency and citizenship by way of investment. And since we launched the program 6 years back, we've now done over 10% of the world's Golden Visa applications, and we maintain a 100% success rate with those applications as well. We've never had a single application decline. We're very familiar, of course, with the process and what's involved, not just to get the visa, but also looking after our clients right up until when you receive the passport 5 years later. So any questions you have generally around Portugal or money or visas, I'm generally a pretty good guy to find some questions at. So as I say, I'll probably answer most of the questions as we go through. Please do feel free to say hello in the Q&A, and we'll come into those shortly. So a brief overview. Holborn, we don't just focus on Portugal. Of course, this is the focus of this evening. And Portugal is one of a number of programs that we can offer. In Europe, we're generally talking a lot about Portugal. It is by far the most popular route to a European passport, but it's not the only route. We can also consider the likes of Malta and Greece and Spain as well. For any questions or queries on the alternative programs, again, feel free to get in touch and we'll be happy to talk you through. So the Golden Visa in Portugal, for those that are not too familiar just yet, it is kind of like a VIP pass to live, work or study in Portugal. Formally, it is a 2-year visa. However, it is a 5-year citizenship program. So once you've held the visa for a total of 5 years, we can apply for permanent residency and then also achieve your European passport as well. And the treasure at the end of the rainbow with that passport is that you can then live in any of the EU states. So whether actually you get fed up of Portugal or maybe not interested in Portugal at all, it gives you that ticket to then go and live in Spain or Italy or France or anywhere for that matter. And one of the reasons why it is, of course, such a popular route, it is the only route to an EU passport without a minimum stay requirement, this investment level. The only other program that allows you to get a European passport without a minimum 6-month stay requirement is through Malta. However, Malta has a significantly higher investment requirement to attain that. Positive with Malta is that it only takes 18 months or so to get the passport compared to Portugal's 5-year program. But nonetheless, it does remain, as I mentioned, Portugal's program is the most popular route to an EU passport. It was launched in 2012. There's now been over 11,000 successful applications. And yeah, it's not closed. Just to clarify, there were so many headlines last year saying it was the end of the Golden Visa. I remember I was actually at a football match back in February watching Seville over in Spain, and I remember getting a notification to say that the Golden Visa program had been closed unexpectedly, which caused a lot of panic for my clients in the process at that stage. But ultimately, the program was very much debated last year. There's a lot of kind of to and fro between the public and the government, and it was actually going to be closed right up until around about November last year. We were kind of expecting that to be the end, but ultimately the program stayed open, which is great news. But there was 1 or 2 changes which we'll come on to in a moment. But those Golden Visa holders get access to a number of benefits. First of all, you are treated very much like a Portuguese citizen from the outset. The only difference is you cannot vote and you cannot run for president. But other than that, you get access to Portuguese education, and you also get access to the Portuguese healthcare system as well, which is one of the best rated healthcare systems anywhere in the world. Portugal, albeit the NHR program has changed, which we'll come on to shortly, offers a number of tax incentives still for new and existing residents. And no matter where you go in Portugal, although I'm slightly biased, of course, I don't think you're going to go far wrong. It is a very nice standard of living, whether you're in the north, the middle, or the south. I'm down in the Algarve, where typically it's a little bit more of a slower pace of life, you could say. Nicer beaches, a little bit warmer in the sea, but certainly not anywhere near as cosmopolitan and as built up as the likes of Lisbon, for example, which of course is the capital. Up in the north of Porto, in Porto, you could say it's a bit of both, very picturesque like the Algarve, but a lot more built up, similar to Lisbon. But you can get from the top to the bottom of the country within about 5 hours, depending on whether you get the train, of course, or how fast that you drive. So for me, I started in the Algarve on a bit of a property hunt, shall we say. I came over with my fiance, and we couldn't quite decide where to live at first. And we ended up kind of looking around a few different places and ultimately fell in love with the Algarve, and in particular in the area of Albufeira and Vilamora. We may venture into Lisbon at some point, but right now, yeah, very happy in the Algarve. We bought a property here a couple of years back, and yeah, very, very nearly renovated as well. It's looking pretty good. But still continues. The workmen in Portugal are not quite as efficient as I'm used to back in the UK. That's for another story. Now, let's get stuck into the new changes that have kicked in as of the end of 2023. So, as I mentioned before, the Golden Visa program is as open as it has ever been. It is not closed, just to clarify any confusion. And there was only really one change that happened in the end, and that is that real estate investment of any kind no longer qualifies for the visa, and that's been kind of under the spotlight for some time. Back in 2020, there was restrictions put on to what type of property that you could invest into, and in 2023, we've now seen the removal of property investment as a whole, both residential and commercial, be withdrawn from the program. So that was a bit of a downside. Of course, property is something that most are familiar with and feel comfortable with, but it does now force the choice of a new investment route. Now, there's 4 main areas of which you can still qualify. These routes have always been there, but of course now with the removal of property, which equated for the vast majority of applications, we now see, of course, an increase in the other options. Now, number 1, by far the most popular, accounting for in excess of 90% of applications moving forward, is the option to invest into a venture capital or a private equity fund. Now, the only 2 caveats to that, or 2 criteria, if you will, is that the investment fund must meet 2 points. The first is that it is regulated in Portugal, okay? And secondly, is that 60% of the fund's assets are held in Portugal. Okay, so indirectly, it is still to the benefit of the Portuguese economy. There are a number of funds available. It's pretty easy to find the kind of details of various funds on the internet, but there's around about 15 to 20 funds in total that meet those 2 points. And we'll come back onto that shortly. You can make a donation to the arts in Portugal. Again, after over 2,000 applications, I'm still yet to see anybody decide to donate 250,000 to the government. But it is an option. Don't know why that would be, but it is an option should you wish. And yeah, technically it is the lowest amount of capital required to go down that route. The third is to donate and invest into the technological research of Portugal. And the fourth is you can also apply for the visa if you're setting up a company there as well, on the basis that you have invested, again, the 500,000 euros, or you can be employing at least 10 members of staff. Now, that option isn't something that you would do just to get the visa, but it is something that can be used if you're already setting up a business in Portugal to get the visa. So as far as like I say, it's a personal choice as to which route you feel is best suited for your personal circumstances. But yeah, by far, the venture capital and the private equity fund equates for the majority of the new applications now. I think mostly because of there's much more investment choice, and also it's very hands off. It's very easy to invest into an investment fund compared to setting up a business or employing members of staff, for example, or of course giving away €250,000. So it ticks quite a lot of boxes. So NHR, latest on NHR. So again, NHR was a program, a tax regime, if you will, for new residents moving to Portugal, designed to attract the world's leading talent and wealthy individuals by offering them a reduced, or in some cases, a 0 rate of tax on overseas income. It was one of the reasons I think behind the immigration numbers to Portugal. And it certainly did what it was designed to do. It was a contributing factor why I moved from Spain, where I was for 5 years, over to Portugal, because with the NHR incentive, the overall tax rate applicable to certain income was considerably lower. Unfortunately, it has now closed to new applications. So if you didn't start your route to Portugal, or your path to Portugal in 2023, unfortunately, you won't be able to apply for an HR from this point onwards. If you did start your trek to Portugal last year, and that can be classed in a number of different ways, there is an extension to the end of 2024 where you can still apply for an HR, but we need to evidence that you did start your journey to becoming a Portuguese resident in 2023. So yeah, again, a much debated topic. And that put a nice little GIF at the top there, or image, shall we say, to temporarily close. It is formally closed at this point. In theory, we may see it come back in the future, especially if there's a new government in Portugal. We may see that come back. In my humble opinion, I think it is to Portugal's detriment to close that program. But unfortunately, I don't represent the Portuguese government. But as a new government does come in, that might be reinstated in the future. We also expect new tax incentives to be introduced this year. But we're not sure exactly what those will be. They're likely to be designed around those that are still working in professional capacity, those that offer a high value occupation to the country in some way. I expect there will be continued tax incentives for those. I'm not too sure about those that are retired or those with overseas income of other sources, but we will see. We will see. But for now, the NHR program is formally finished. And if ever more important now is for the residents of Portugal do structure their savings and their investments in a manner where they will, in the future, generate a 60% deduction on their profit from their investments. And there are ways to do that after a period of 8 years. It's something that we used to do in tandem with NHR, and you'd have kind of enjoy the NHR benefits for the first 10 years. But after kind of 8 years into that, you'd then kind of hit that kind of, you'd hit that magic period, if you like, where also you get a deduction for the rest of your life of 60% on any income from savings and investments as well. But of course, now without NHR, that's still and ever more important. Again, any questions on, again, financial planning, which isn't for this evening, happy to go into that. All that's nice and clear on NHR. Again, any questions on that front, please do feel free to drop some questions in the Q&A. And I'll be sure to come back to that one shortly. Okay, so some good news. Last week, as some of you will have seen from my update a few days back, the government has announced that the application period for the visa will now count towards the 5-year qualification period for a passport. There's been huge demand for visa over recent years, and when the program was first launched, it only took 2 or 3 months to actually apply and receive the visa. We've seen that stretch as high as kind of two years and over. It's now reduced back down to between kind of 12 to 18 months on average. The Borders Agency has recently changed from CEF to AMA, and at first glance, they do appear to be processing applications a lot faster, a lot more effectively. The online system is much smoother. So we do expect that to come down to about 12 months from this point. But the great news is that 12 months will now contribute towards the 5 years needed to get that passport. So instead of waiting 6 to 7 years to get the rights to live in Europe, that is now right down to no more than 5 years, which is a big thumbs up. So yeah, that's the latest news on that front. Okay, so some basics now as to who can qualify for the visa. Now, of course, if you're on the webinar, you probably have an interest in applying. Now, you can apply on the basis that you meet the following criteria. And the first one is that you are not already an EU citizen. And the second one being is that you maintain a clean criminal record. We have had success with clients that have had a criminal record, but more misdemeanors from many years back. So if there are little blemishes of a record from a previous life, then don't panic too much. But in the main, you need to have a clean criminal record. The third, of course, is to make an eligible investment into something. I've just seen a couple of people log out as I talked about the criminal record there. Number 3 is you need to make an eligible investment into the qualifying criteria. And the last is to stay only for 14 days in a 2-year period. So again, unlike, for example, Spain and Greece and other programs in Europe, you don't have to be in the country to get the visa. The majority of my clients, funnily enough, are actually not moving to Portugal. I'm hearing a lot at the moment about it being kind of a plan B for political reasons. I've heard 1 or 2 clients mention about gun crime locally, and it's more of a kind of a plan B for the children in the future. But yeah, you don't have to physically move to Portugal to be on that path to get the passport. But as long as you stay there for at least 14 days every 2 years, that's fine. And then after that 5th year, like I say, we get the passport and the permanent residency, at which point there's no requirements to stay for any time after that period. But there's no other requirements. There's no age restrictions. You don't need to have a certain level of income or a certain level of savings. As long as you can meet those 4 points, it's very clear cut. And like I said, we've maintained a 100% success rate. And largely because the criteria is very simple, unlike some other programs that we operate. But again, I hope that's nice and clear. Any questions, we'll come back to them shortly. As far as which family members can be included, now, the way the application works is there's one main applicant, and as to who that is it's entirely up to you. Generally, the person that likes doing the most admin, or maybe the decision maker. It doesn't really make a huge difference between spouses who is the main applicant. However, whoever it is can add as many family members as they like onto the same application on the basis that they meet the dependent criteria. So dependents can be classed as children up to the age of 21 in Portugal. We can add children above the age of 21 on the basis that they are still in education. We need to evidence that to prove dependency to the age of 21. And also, should you wish, we can include parents on the same application. Parents above the age of 65 are automatically assumed as dependents, so there's no evidence required. And if they are younger than 65, then that can be okay, as long as you can prove their dependency. Often we kind of change, we'll kind of guide you on who to have as the main applicant to get as many family members on as possible. Sometimes it makes more sense, for example, one of your children to be the main applicant and to add you as their dependents, which may allow, for example, their children to be added, which would be your grandchildren. You get the idea. But we'll guide you on that. The idea is that you can bring 3 generations of family over on the same application rather than having to do individual investments. And spouse, for as far as spouse, you don't need to be married as long as you live with one another. That is fine. Okay, now as far as the process, a bit of a busy slide, but this just kind of talks through exactly what the process is, what to expect over the next 12 months, 12 to 18 months. So my company, Holborn, and my team, we look after the whole process for our clients. We make it as easy as possible. We facilitate the process right from the outset of helping you find a suitable investment right up until when you receive the passport in 5 years' time. And it all starts, as I say, with really helping you find a suitable investment that meets that criteria that we covered before. Once we've done that, we'll then start the process by setting up your Portuguese tax numbers. And secondly, to set up a Portuguese bank account. You can't do a lot in Portugal before you've got your tax numbers, and you can't set up a bank account before you've got your tax numbers either. So that's the starting block. The bank account can take some time. At the moment, we're seeing to set up a bank account remotely take quite a few weeks, which is partly the reason why the application takes longer than it could. But if you do fly into Portugal, or if you fancy an excuse for a holiday in Portugal, you can actually set up your bank account on the same day, which can significantly speed up the application at the outset. But it's not necessary. Like I said, we do everything. The only time which you have to come to Portugal will be actually around 6 months after we submit your application to do biometrics. But up until then, everything is done remotely with myself and my team. Once the bank account is open, the funds for the investment you'll then need to transfer to your new Portuguese bank account. You, of course, meet with your representative law firm, and they will then they'll help you invest into the fund. Okay, we'll make a recommendation for the lawyer. Don't worry about having to find a lawyer. You can certainly help with that. And we will liaise with them on your behalf to keep everything as much as we can as one line of communication for you. But once the due diligence is done and you've completed the power of attorney with the lawyers, you'll then invest into your chosen investment route. And once we have ownership of that qualifying investment, we can then submit your application for the visa. And then, we simply wait then for your biometrics appointment. And that is, again, something we'll accompany you for on the day. You'll have a member of staff be there with you at the AIMA office to help with translation and presentation of documents. They'll take your fingerprints and your photograph, all ready for your nice new shiny visa to be issued. In a total around about 12 to 18 months, hopefully close to 12 months. And it's not golden, would you believe it? I always thought it was actually going to be a golden card, but it's not a golden card. It just looks a little bit like that one there, bottom. But at that point, that is when you will have then rights to live in Portugal. You'll have access to the Schengen area as well if you don't already have. And then it's once the passport is issued that you then have effectively 27 passports all at the same time to then live wherever you like. I'm sure you will still be happily ever after in Portugal, because in my opinion, it is by far the best place to live in Europe. But if you disagree, you can head over to whichever country that you like. Okay, so yeah, again, any questions on that, let me know. I'm kind of giving a bit of a skim overview there so we can come on to the Q&A, but hopefully that's nice and clear. As a brief recap, over the 5-year period, we start again with the Golden Visa, which then lasts for 2 years. At the end of those 2 years, we must do the renewal of the visas. And then we'll do that again at the end of year 4. And then once you've held the visa for a period of 5 years in total, on the basis that you have put the time aside to learn at least a basic level of Portuguese, and you have continued to maintain a clean criminal record, we can then apply for permanent residency and, of course, passport. The Portuguese language test is a relatively straightforward standard. To give you an idea, it's kind of age 16 kind of difficulty, if you will. I'm personally dreading it. I'm very, very good with numbers. I'm not very good with languages. I'm also not very good with geography, unfortunately, would you believe? But all in all, yeah, you do need to understand a bit of basic Portuguese in order to apply for the permanent rights and citizenship. There's nothing to say that you have to apply to permanent residency, by the way. If you do just want to keep renewing the visa, that's okay. You can renew the visa for as long as you like. But of course, once you have permanent rights, you no longer then have to pay the cost of renewing a visa every couple of years. The process to renew the visa is fortunately quite simple. So up until last year, you had to physically come back to Portugal and meet with CEF, who was the border agency previously, and it was quite a stressful process of renewing the visa. It is all now done online, so it's pretty easy, but there's still a cost involved to renew. So yeah, we can get the permanent residency, great. In theory, I'm just waiting for some clarity from our legal team as well. But in theory now, if the application takes 12 months, 12 to 18 months, for example, there is an argument that we could maybe get away with just the one renewal rather than needing to have to renew twice now. But we shall see. We shall see how that pans out. But once we've got the passport, as it says there at the bottom, we've then got access to over 187 countries worldwide and the right to live full-time in any of the EU states. Okay, super. So yeah, again, I hope that's nice and clear. The next up, just a quick recap. Shortly we'll come on to some questions. Again, the initial application period, we'd expect around about the 4-week mark to get bank accounts and tax numbers set up. And again, depending on which investment route you wish to take, we'd aim to get the application submitted. I would expect around about 12 months to receive the visa. I will renew again after year 2, potentially again after year 4, and then at the 5th year, from the application date, we can then apply for your passport. Piece of cake. And again, we'll walk you all through that. Myself and my team will keep you up to date throughout the process, and we'll try and make it as easy as we can. Okay, what have we got next? Okay, investment selection. Yeah, just a couple of slides then to finish up. So again, we'll help make introductions, we'll help guide you in the right direction as to where you can invest and the options that you have. Well, these are some of our kind of tips and tricks, if you like. It might be quite common knowledge to those that are experienced with making investment decisions. But the first question I'm asked certainly from my wealth management clients is, of course, is the capital secure? Especially when you're considering investment funds, you've got to make sure that you understand the fund, Is the protection in place? Is the fund asset backed? Is it regulated? Things like this is very important to look at. Have a look at how long the capital is tied up for. Again, if you're investing into setting up a business, for example, do you intend to keep that business for just the 6 years that you need to get the passport, or would it take some time to sell that business in order to release that capital? There are some investment funds in the marketplace that tie the capital up for up to 14 years as well. And again, if you only need the investment for 6 years, 5 years, arguably now, so you don't want the money to be tied up longer than you need it to be. Be careful of big fees. Okay, where we can, we're looking out for investment options that don't have fees at all. But if you are looking, on the internet, be very careful of big setup fees. We've seen setup fees of close to 5% of the investment sum. Management fees, performance fees, I've seen up to 50% of performance. So be careful, and of course, exit fees as well, depending on when you release the capital. Make sure you're comfortable with the risk of the investment. Again, whether or not it's setting up a business or whether it is going down the fund route, make sure you understand the makeup of the investment. How good is past performance? How volatile are the returns? What are the areas of risk for that capital in the future? There are funds out there that have guaranteed returns, fixed returns, sometimes variable returns, and also, where we can, we're always trying to highlight investment options that have additional incentives as well. And that there are some good incentives out there, but there's just some general to-dos, if you will. One thing from me is investing into the hospitality sector in Portugal is certainly one to take under consideration. Of course, hospitality is a huge industry in Portugal with the weather and, of course, the infrastructure into tourism in Portugal as well. Like I say, the hospitality market contributes over 40 billion euros to Portugal each year, which is only increasing. And often when investing into hospitality assets, you can, there's lots of additional incentives to have as well, which goes along with, the fun and enjoyment of moving to Portugal. But for more information on that, please do ask. Happy to share that information with you. Other than that, I hope that gives everyone a good overview of what's involved with the program and where the program's up to and the latest updates. There is a QR code on the screen if you would like to book some time. Happy to do a 30-minute slot to go through any personal questions that you have. Just check my calendar. I think availability from next week now. And we'll open up to some questions. But hopefully that was okay for everyone. And let's see what we've got coming in now. So thank you for everyone that's submitted so far. Will a recording be available? Yes, a recording will be available once it's uploaded onto YouTube. I should be sure to send a link out. Hi there, Robert. Nice to meet you. Option 1, what is historically the return on this investment? Well, Robert, it depends on the investment that you choose. I've not mentioned any kind of particular or specific investments this evening. We can do that following a one-to-one meeting. Once I understand, what your requirements are, that is a big part of what we do. I would say drop me an email or, like I say, schedule some time in for next week. I can find out a little bit more about what your requirements and preferences are, and then I can make sure you have some guidance on that as well. Hello there. We are US citizens contemplating a move to Portugal and new to this. Will you be covering the D7 visa in comparison? Unfortunately, not on tonight's webinar. Again, very welcome to ask any questions regarding the D7. The main difference with the D7 is that it is a residency visa where you must be in the country full time, among some other criteria as well. But happy to answer any questions on that in private. We are retired. Under the investment criteria, does the investment include income distributions to the investor? Does the investment include income distributions to the investor? It will have income distributions, again, subject to the investment that you choose. If you go down the venture capital an investment fund route, yes, of course, you would expect a return from that fund. So the answer will be more than likely yes. If the answer would be no, then I'd say it's probably not that good of an investment choice. Hopefully I've understood that question okay. But again, any other queries, please do ask on that. Hi there, Caitlin. Does your company have experience with successful cultural donations? Yes, we do indeed. If that is your preferred route, yeah, please do drop us a message and we can, again, you won't really need the advice as far as investing is concerned, but of course the lawyers can help with the application with your donation. No problem. Hi there, Sans. Does the application period that is included in the 5-year period begin upon establishing a tax number or bank account? Or in what phase of the Golden Visa process as shown in your slide does the 5 years begin? So the 5-year period will begin at the submission of the application. So once we submit the application to AMA, we'll get a tracking number to say that it's been submitted. And that is the time at which you formally enter the system and the 5-year clock will begin. Does the application period that is included in the 5-year period begin upon establishing a tax? Sorry, going for the same question. Hi there, Sam. The second question. If a child of age is a dependent single and studying at the beginning of the application process, but becomes independent, not single, or stops studying during the process, are they ineligible for inclusion? If your child is under the age of 21, then you're okay. All is well. If older than 21 and they're not studying or they become married, then that would jeopardize their application at the renewal stage. Okay, and it is at the renewal stage where we need to evidence the dependency. So I would say the answer to that is it depends on their age. Yeah, we'll see if we can find a solution regardless. So hopefully that helps. Hi there, George. I must go. Will there be a recording sent? Yes, George. Yeah, no problem. Thanks for joining. I will be sure to send out a recording to everyone as soon as that comes available. And hi there, Adet. What are your fees? Our fees, Adet, you'd be surprised or pleased to know we don't charge any fees. We are paid, of course, but our fees for facilitating the Golden Visa are covered by the individual fund managers or the chosen investment route that you go down. So there are fees that you pay as the investor, but they typically break down into two parts. The first being the legal fees. Okay, you'll pay for a lawyer. Ultimately, that will depend on how many family members you'd like to include on the visa, and of course, which investment that you decide to choose. And the second fees that you'll pay are the government fees as well. So again, as you'll see on the screen, happy to go through. I can actually bring up on the screen personalized cost illustrations on a one-to-one basis. I very quickly detail exactly what to expect and what the timeline of payments is as well. So yeah, feel free to book some time in and we'll go through that together, Odette. Hey there, Nick. If I gain a Portuguese passport, do I have to relinquish my British passport? No, you don't. You'd be pleased to know. I also have a British passport. And yeah, dual nationality is fine. What else can I tell you on that? But no, in short, obviously before Brexit, there wasn't really the need for the Golden Visa for us Brits because we had access to Europe anyway. But now seeing a significant increase from last year of UK nationals now wanting to regain the rights back to live in Europe. That's fine. No, you can keep both. No problem at all. Okay, is this entire Golden Visa process handled by Holborn, or do we need a lawyer, for instance, to establish a Portuguese bank account? Yes, we facilitate the whole process. Okay, you'll have one point of contact, which will be myself and my team, representatives of Holborn, and we will liaise with all the different moving parts on your behalf, which includes setting up your bank account, which includes setting up your Portuguese tax number, which includes dealing with the acting law firm, which includes speaking with Aimer for the biometrics appointment. So yeah, we do everything under one roof for you. My team's very proactive. Like we've done now over 10% of the world's golden visa applications. So I like to think we're pretty good at what we do. And yeah, we keep you up to date throughout that process and try to make it as easy as we can. As I mentioned earlier, you don't need to physically come to Portugal until biometrics, which isn't going to be until at least 6 months after we do the application. So up until that point, everything is done remotely and as quickly and as easily as we can. Okay, super. So thank you for those questions. I've not got any other questions coming in now, which is super. We'll be finished up in a moment. If there's any last minute questions, please feel free to drop those in. I will be sure to get in touch with a copy of the recording for everyone that's registered this evening. And yeah, my next webinar will be on the 22nd of February. Again, I'll keep everyone up to date with the webinar schedule. Of course, I'll cover any changes relevant to the Golden Visa program. I may also be featuring some other programs as well, like the Malta Golden Visa, also the Greek Golden Visa as well. If you do want to talk on a one-to-one basis on any of the other routes to citizenship, then again, feel free to get in touch. By request, again, I can send you my Portuguese tax guide, which gives you all you need to know. Very, very exciting document all about Portugal taxes for those that are interested. Again, just drop me an email and I can send that over to you. The cost illustrations, again, things like legal fees, government fees, and of course, details of investments that are out there can be provided, so please ask. And I think that's everything for now. So yeah, just a couple of questions to finish off. Hi there, Robert. You can get in contact for Zoom. You've got my email address on the screen. You can also scan the QR code there in the front. That'll take you straight through to my diary. Oh yeah, of course, drop me a WhatsApp as well. It is coming a little bit late in the day now for me over in Europe, but yeah, drop me a WhatsApp. That's fine. We can pick that up pretty quickly. But yeah, loads of different ways, Robert. Loads of different ways you can get in touch for a Zoom meeting. Hi there, Marilyn. When do we do a test for language? Okay, good question. You can do the language test at any time, and you can do that locally. You don't have to do that in Portugal. But yeah, you've got 5 years to pass. So as long as you're at a formal test centre and we have a certificate to prove that you've passed the test when we do the application, sorry, when we do your citizenship application, that's fine. Yeah, you can either do it all in one go. I'd say the majority of my clients are generally kind of doing a crash course, and it's kind of from scratch to passing in about 3 months. Others prefer just to steadily learn and actually learn it properly over those 5 years. But yeah, as long as we have a certificate from a local test centre, that's fine. Okay, so can you share a couple of references of your recent clients who have successfully obtained their passports using this process? Yes, references are always available. I always ask for my new clients, I might need a favor in the future for a reference. So yeah, we always, of course, ask for permission from our existing clients before sharing their details. But yeah, we have a very good reputation. You can search us online, check out Trustpilot. We always try to do an exceptional job. It doesn't take too much these days to get a bad reputation. So yeah, we have lots of references available. And yeah, good online read up. If you type my name into Google, if you take a look at Jason Swan, type in Holborn Assets, you'll see a lot of publications on different news outlets. You'll see, of course, a link to the company website, which is holbornpass.com for the citizenship website. There is holbornassets.com for our wealth management group. But yeah, take a look on Google. It's always a good idea to Google people. You can find anything on Google these days. But yeah, Jason Swan, Holborn Assets, loads of reading and lots of bedtime watching of all the bits I've covered as well. Hi there, Caitlin. What is your success rate on citizenship? The success rate on citizenship is 97%, would you believe? And of course, 3%, well, we can't prevent people from picking up criminal records and not seeing the Portuguese test. But the transition from visa to citizenship is pretty straightforward. All you have to do is, like I say, don't commit any crimes, learn Portuguese, and it's dead easy. It's dead straightforward. So it's not like the US, for example, where, it depends who you get on the day. If you get someone that's had a bad night's sleep and decides it's a no, it's a lot different in Portugal. It's very, very black and white. The criteria is very simple. So yeah, as long as you keep up those 2 points, then you have nothing to worry about, Caitlin. Hi there, Nick. Do all potential passport holders have to pass the language exam, or is it just the initial applicant? It is everybody that wants to get passport will need to do the language test, unless for very, very young children. An exception can be made for very young children. But yeah, basically anyone that wants to get the passport must pass the language test. Which I'm dreading. I'm dreading that. I do not know a word of Portuguese, and where I live down in the south, even if you try to talk Portuguese, you just get English coming back at you. There's more English in the Algarve. Well, where I'm at least in the Algarve. I don't want to offend any Portuguese now, but there's more English speakers. Portuguese are very welcoming to English speakers, actually. Unlike my experience in Spain, I always felt when I was in Spain that it's you felt like a bit of an intruder. When you're in the restaurants, you always feel like you're a bit of a burden on them. Whereas in Portugal, very, very different story. You'll notice it the moment you come across the border, and I think it's to do with the Portuguese learn English in school, so they love the chance to practice their English, on foreigners. So they're happy to talk in English, which is great, and very welcoming, very chatty. I remember the first time I arrived in Villamora, the waitress was the most helpful person I've ever met. She was telling us where everything was, how to get to places, obviously serving us food and drink and so on. Whereas Spain, it would be a bit of a grumble and a bit of a what do you want? But overall, yeah, it's difficult, but you got to do it. If you want to get the passport, you've got to learn the language. Yeah. All part of the fun. The rest of it is just sunbathing, really, Nick. Taking it easy. And a bit of swimming, a bit of golf maybe. But don't forget to study Portuguese. That's okay, everyone. It's nice to cover quite a lot there. We're just coming up to the hour. So yeah, I think we'll finish up. For any questions, again, drop me an email. WhatsApp is fine. Let's try and as much as you can within kind of European working hours, and scan the QR code for my diary. I will keep everyone up to date with my news updates unless you ask me to do otherwise. And I'll hopefully look forward to speaking to everyone soon or at the next webinar in February. Thank you much, everyone. Have a good day. I'll speak to you soon. Bye now.